Good evening, citizens. I'm Devoid. This is my dad, Rev Atheist, and welcome to Redacted. This is a live podcast, typically pre-recorded today, where we talk about Star Citizen and its development.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about some of the items they talked about today on the I guess yesterday on Inside Star Citizen. Specifically, they were talking about the EVA, the extravehicular moving around, and the personal interaction system. I don't know why my tongue doesn't want to say that. Hopefully, we'll talk about some more stuff.
Piss, it's fine.
Yeah, pie piss. So hopefully we won't have, we'll have some other things to talk about as well, because, if we're being honest, there wasn't a whole lot that they talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
That was new.
Just bleed in. Yeah. Might bleed in a little bit of our other expectations for 323 for quarter one. At the time of recording, we also don't know what's coming on SCL. So,
right.
Maybe we can speculate a little bit about that. But yeah, EVA Tier 2, first thing to talk about. Rev, what are your thoughts on it? Just by seeing what we see.
Sure, yeah. So, EVA has to change because EVA is absolute garbage. And I don't think there's anybody in the verse that would say, "Oh, EVA is great. They don't need to change EVA." Nobody.
Yeah, talk about pie piss. EVA is pie piss.
It is god awful. So you jump off and you're immediately in a tailspin. I don't know what that's about. You can't tell what's up. You can't tell what's down. You don't know what direction you're facing. You can't tell if you're looking. It's the worst, right? So
super terrible.
So the best thing that they could just do if they did nothing else is stop that from happening, right?
Agreed. Absolutely.
So, but they went that extra step and they really totally they're revamping it entirely. So not only is the exit and re-entry to the gravity field better, so that in their words, no more face planting unless you really, really, really try hard.
They say, I'll believe that when I see it. Honestly.
Same. But the takeoffs and the landings should be better. And the thing that I like most about it is that idea that once you start moving, you're going to stay in the orientation you are, right? So you can move the mouse around, and the only thing that's really going to move around is your head. Although, if you try to look backwards, that may result in a twist, but your basic horizontal orientation, the direction you're moving, it'll stay the same, right? We're going to obey some Newton's laws for a change, so that's cool.
Yes. Decoupled mode, essentially, for EVA.
Exactly, right? So that decoupled mode, I think, is going to be super valuable. And then a little less stoked for the fuel aspect of it, like the EVA fuel, but I get it. I'm not upset by it.
I get it too. You won't have to worry so much about that in 323. I think they said that EVA fuel, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think they said that the fuel is not coming in yet. That'll be implemented later, as will the 0G traversal. Not coming in quite yet.
I did not get that impression. Is that what they said in ISC?
I'm pretty sure.
I did not get that. They were doing such a job of pointing out and talking about the transition from just essentially flight to traversal, and then also the fuel, that I kind of got the impression that the intent is to have all of that as a package.
Maybe it will. I'll go over and look at it again. I've got the video up right now. I suppose if we wanted, we could pull it up, but I don't know what I don't know what section they did or didn't talk about it. I was under the impression that the traversal and the fuel were not going to be in yet. Maybe I'm wrong, but even if they are, I'm not upset about it.
I'm not upset. Upset? No, I'm not. I get it. It's just The
I actually go ahead.
I'm the
Go
kind of
ahead.
gamer, right, that will play a game for a little while. And there's a reason that I've got all the ships I've got, by the way. And this is that psyche. I'll let you in a little bit on my mindset. I'm the kind of player that plays a game for a little while. I get the feel for it. I decide I like it, and then I want to win. So I'm gonna get the cheats on this on the single player game. I'm gonna go into the cheat modes. I'm gonna go into the console commands, you know, I'm gonna give myself the god modes. I'm gonna give myself the money. I want to explore the game, right? That's so
I get
you know
that.
the idea of being limited to fuel and there's nothing I can do about it. It's like, ugh,
That's
okay,
so funny.
fine.
So there are a lot of things that you gave to me genetically, right? That's not one of them. That's absolutely not one of them. I really love experiencing a game from zero to hero, right? So you start with nothing, you explore, you pick up the junk, right? You experience the junk, you go through each phase, the way you're supposed to go through it, right? You
Sure.
go through these trials and tribulations,
Yeah, but
and then
after you've done that, I want to win.
maybe I I feel like, yeah, I mean, yeah, so do I,
Then I
right?
want to
But
crush it. I mean, like, I don't care how I
I
do it. I just want to
feel
crush it.
much better about my experience if I earn that victory, right? And that's not to say that you haven't. You've earned it by working a 9 to 5, 5 days a week and earning money to do it, right? So you've earned it a different way. But I enjoy having that consistent challenge in a game, right? So for me, the reason why I'm drawn to games like Star Citizen and survival games, I also play like DayZ and like Rust and stuff, because I enjoy the fact that there's consistent challenge there and that I'm always working on something. With games like those survival games, yeah, you can get a stockpile of stuff and you can set yourself up to be well off, but there's still always something to do, right? And I get very bored very quickly of games when we introduce things like if you're playing a single player game, they
Yeah.
introduce these cheat codes, you give yourself a bunch of money, you're god mode, right? I get very bored very quickly.
Oh, don't get me
Um,
wrong. So do I. So do I. But for some reason, it's compulsive.
oh yeah, no, I can't do it, man. I can't do it.
If I could avoid it, I'm sure I would enjoy games much longer, much better. But there's a compulsion.
I get that. I get that. But no, I'm excited for it. The idea that I have to be mindful about not just my ship now with what I put on the ship with the cargo refactor and the engineering system and how I set up the ship, but now I have to be responsible for my own person as well. And hey, if my ship fails, or if I have to go outside of my ship, how do I manage those resources?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like that. I'm really excited actually for things like EVA fuel and being able to decouple and just float into the infinite void. I'm
Sure.
super excited.
Yeah. Basically, here's another way to describe it. Generally speaking, so I mean, I like Star Citizen. There's a lot about it. There's a lot about it to like, right? The part that I'm least excited for is resource management sim.
I'm so excited for that.
Yeah. So there's lots of other stuff that you know, I'm looking forward to space combat, especially with capital ships and multiplayer and engineering gameplay. Not where I'm the engineer, but where I rely on engineers to maintain the ship that I'm commanding. There's I'm looking forward to all like so much, but yeah. As soon as I have to start doing resource management, it feels like work, and as soon as it's work, I'm I'm done. I'm like, no, this is not fun anymore.
Yeah, I get that, right? I when I consume content, right? And when I say this, I mean when I'm watching a movie, when I'm reading a book, when I'm playing a game, right? I consume that content to be fully absorbed into it,
Sure.
right? If I have any kind of connection to the real world while I'm trying to be within this content, I like it significantly less. So things like resource management, they just take that what's the word I'm looking for? Immersion.
Immersion, yeah.
They take that immersion and I feel like they amplify it for
Yeah,
me.
so that
So
helps to draw you in.
it
Yeah.
does. It really does.
It draws me out. Because
Yeah,
then all of a sudden
it's funny that we're opposite on that.
Yeah, because then I'm focusing so much on elements of the game that's not playing it in my mind that I can't enjoy the game piece.
I get that. I get that.
Yeah. So
I
yeah.
do. Yeah, I mean, that's just
I'm
not
glad we've got
how I
you
feel.
so that you can do all that resource management and you can manage.
I will happily do that.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, I do want to see, they haven't mentioned this, and maybe they have, maybe I've just missed it. Like refill, like fuel pods that you could take with you, put in your pocket or something, where if you run out of EVA fuel, can you swap out like a little fuel tank?
Yeah,
That might be cool.
that would be cool, right? So things like that. I mean, sure. So like if you have the opportunity to use one of those and it takes up like the spot of, well, I gave up a med
Like a med
pen.
pen or something.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
gave up a med pen. Maybe I have to give up 2 med pens. Maybe it's wide and it takes up 2 slots for that fuel. And make those kind of decisions. I mean, those are kind of cool decisions, I suppose. Right. I don't know. But I can tell you, I don't know if you've probably seen, right? I make a decision about what I'm going to carry and what I'm going to wear, and that's what I've got. When's the last?
Yeah, no, I'm a lot the same way, right? So, I mean, we're going off on a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's okay.
Yeah,
Because,
well,
like you said, it's a bit of a light topic today, so I think we can afford the time. In regards to speculation about those EVA fuel packs, right? I'm a lot the same way. I find my loadout, and I keep that loadout, right? My loadout, however, consists of a wide array of things. Okay, my
yeah,
loadout, I've got med pens on my hip with an extra stack in my bag. I've got a tractor beam on my hip with a spare multi-tool in my bag. I've got a med gun on my hip with refills. I've got extra ammo in my bag as well as on my chest. I've got spares on spares on spares.
yeah,
Whatever I can fit in my pockets and a small backpack, it's full. Right, I'm ready to go. People are like, "Oh, I forgot my tractor beam." I whip out a tractor beam. I'm like the mom who's got the purse,
yeah,
who's like always seems to have everything you need. Like, oh man, I wish I had Benadryl. Pull out Benadryl. Like I feel like I'm that kind of person in Star Citizen. So being able to say, "Oh, we might be EVAing. Oh, look, nobody brought EVA packs. Here's an EVA pack." I hope that we can do something like that.
yeah. Sure. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I've actually been fairly impressed with how CIG ultimately, implements things. I know there's the people complain a lot about the first iteration, about the state of the game before even that first iteration of various systems. Sometimes, like inventory. I know that there were issues initially with inventory, but every time they come back and they iterate on these systems, I mean, it's always an improvement, right? And I think
It is.
generally speaking, CIG does a pretty good job of finding that balance and that good point about where the systems are good, they're fun, they're not overly cumbersome, but they still require some effort. Yeah. So I'm sure they'll hit it at some point.
I think so too. There's one more thing regarding EVA that I wanted to touch on that I hope that they do. Right? You mentioned when we first started talking about EVA, like, oh, now we have to start following Newton's laws.
A little bit.
Something that kept like sticking out to me during this entire ISC was they're sitting there shooting their guns, and there's no
That's right.
force.
There's
no force.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, like, man, how cool would it be if like if you're shooting your gun in space, one of two things happen. Either you go you start flying back with it, or your EVA pack consumes fuel to compensate, right? Have you ever read The Expanse?
I've watched it.
Okay, I haven't watched it. I've read it though. In The Expanse, they have guns from the future that can tie into your suit systems, right? If
Hmm.
you're wearing like armor, and if you fire a gun, your suit can compensate for it with EVA thrusters. So you can go pa pa pa, and your suit will go psh, 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 and compensate for it, right? I think it'd be really cool if they did something like that, right? Where maybe if you went out and you were out of EVA fuel and you start firing your gun, you could maybe utilize your gun as a thruster, you know? Or if you were in a dogfight and you had, an EVA suit on, then you could actually stay planted, not move back because your EVA suit was
Mm,
compensating for that. I would love to see that personally. Can it be done? Maybe. Are they going to?
of course, it
I don't
can be
know.
done. It can be done. There's no question. Everything can be done.
I suppose you're right. Will they though? I hope so. They've never
Yeah.
mentioned anything about it. Maybe that's a tier 3 thing. I don't
Yeah,
know.
maybe that's a post release. Somebody says, "Hey, you know what would be cool? Yeah, we should do that." Who knows?
I'd honestly be surprised if something like that weren't already on their radar. It's certainly not a priority, but I hope that they're considering it. If there's
It,
one thing I know about CIG, it's that they are very good at being thorough in their thought process as far as how they want something to work. They're not the greatest in user interfaces. They're working on it, but they are thorough in making sure that systems have deep functionalities, I think.
yeah, great. So speaking of user interfaces, that takes us right into the next item, which is the personal
Yes,
interaction.
the pie
Uh,
piss.
the pipe pissed, yeah, whatever. So, what are your thoughts there? Right. So, I mean, it was certainly attractive, right? It was good looking.
I have mixed thoughts. Okay. And I think it's going to be overall a good thing, right? Overall very useful because right now you can do the tap F thingy and it'll like pick something up, right? You can tap F on a console
Did
as
you
long
get
as
your
you're centered
default
and it'll open
action?
a door.
Yep.
Yeah, and it works now, right? To open doors and pick things up. It's not intuitive because it doesn't have the prompts and stuff, but it does work. And the when you hold F to highlight, it can be a little fucky sometimes, especially if you're dealing with items that are really close to each other. And it seems like this new interaction system fixes that, which I think is huge. Because Star Citizen, with the way it works, how entities exist just in space, and they sometimes fall on top of each other, especially with smaller items. Being able to hold F and reliably and accurately choose which one of a specific item you want to pick up that's valuable, right? What I'm a little bit unsure about, and I'll have to see how it feels, is changing your default actions via that radio menu. That seems like it's going to be a little bit clunky to me, right? Because
But you only have to do it once. First of all.
true,
Second of
what
all,
I'm
second of all, the thing that they showed was that when you're in that, you are always making a selection on something. So it's not like your mouse, you have to like get your mouse and like put it there. You're in the radial. Your mouse is constantly selecting one of them. So as you're moving it, it's simply changing which item is being selected. So
right.
so in that way, they're kind of simplifying the ability to select the bits that you want. So I'm
That's not what I'm
optimistic.
concerned about. I'm okay with the radio menu existing itself.
Yep.
Right. I'm good with that. I like what they had to say about, you're always selecting something so you don't have to drag your mouse across your desk just to select something, you know. I like that. What I fear might be a little bit clunky is the customizing your default actions because it's also within that radio menu, but it is kind of like outlying border thing, right? To where, you've got your actions, you've got inspect, you've got hold, you've got place, and then I I didn't see exactly how it worked, but beyond that, you've got another section that is like make primary action, make secondary action, right? And you can set all those up in that radio menu.
Yep.
And that looked again, I'll have to see how it feels, but it looked like it might be a little bit clunky. We'll have to see.
Mm,
Not sure how I feel about that.
I don't
I
know.
like that you can customize it. I'm not sure if I love how, but
I kind of liked it, right? So I am a proponent, uh, being a software developer myself, right, of giving people the ability to make the decision, right, to bringing those decisions forward as much as possible, so that it's not like buried in a bunch of into a bunch of layers. So the idea of them saying, "Hey, here's where you do the action. If you just open up the radial, I guess that's holding the F button opens the radial, right? Then you get the radial and you just select it and go. Right there, I also have the ability, since this is where I choose it, to decide that I always want to choose it and just go out a little bit farther. I actually really like that from a design perspective. Bringing that decision point so forward to the user that I think it'll. You're right about figuring, seeing how it feels, but I think it's kind of intuitive that, hey, I
I
want
hope
this.
it is. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
It's I could imagine when I first heard, before I actually saw the presentation, right? When I first heard that, hey, the options to change your primary and secondary interactions are in the radio menu. In my head, I thought, oh, it might be neat if you could hover over that option. You pull up the radio menu, you hover over the option. Maybe you could like right click to set primary, double right click to set secondary or something, instead of having to drag even further and pop out a second radio menu, which is what it looks like it does.
That is what it
You
looked
know,
like. Yeah, I'll agree.
so I mean, it all comes back down to just having to feel it. But I think that's something a little simpler, like a right click option would be nice to see. Um, Overall, though, I think it'll be a huge improvement. It'll be nice having the prompts. I like a lot that it shows you the prompt, but it doesn't like highlight the object.
Yeah. So
Um,
so let me ask you the radio thing. Let's say, for example, that they're already thinking along your lines, and that the second layer pops out if you right click.
that might not be so bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Hopefully they're thinking about it.
might not be so bad. I don't want to be presented with too much information when I don't want it.
That's
Every time I open that radio menu, I don't want to see 3 different rings to select from.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
You
That
know?
is the other end of going too far, bringing information and choices forward. Right? Is giving so much information that the choices that you're actually there to make get lost in the pile of stuff. So you're absolutely right. So that's an important balance feature.
I am also the way you word that reminds me of something else I wanted to say. They mentioned, and this is again one of those features I think is going to be really cool, but also could be really annoying. They mentioned that similar item types in different states will have different primary and secondary interactions, and I'm worried that this is going to backfire. For instance, if you have like a gun on the ground versus a gun in a locker, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're in a hurry, right? And you've gone to your locker and you set your primary interaction to be, for instance, equip, right? But
From a
suddenly,
locker.
because from a locker, but suddenly there's a gun on the ground, you're in the heat of battle, right? You want to pick it up, but from before, your primary interaction for guns on the ground was inspect. So now you run up and you think, oh, I could just equip really quick. You tap it, and suddenly you're just like, and you're kind of
If
fucked,
you
right?
set, all I have to say to that is
It's an example.
if you set your primary interaction for a gun on the ground to inspect, what are you even doing? What are you
My
doing?
point is, that was an arbitrary example. My point is that I hope that they don't include so many different item states to where having primary interactions becomes moot, because every single you have to set primary interactions for every single item in every single state, to where you've got 30 different item states that you have to be aware of, and if you change one, suddenly the other 29 are still going to be what they were before, and it just becomes more hassle than not, right? So I hope that it doesn't become too convoluted. you
I
know
I, I have a, I kind of see what you're saying, but I have to have faith that won't be the case. So
I don't know, have you seen the
and
inventory system? It's a
and
little rough.
yeah, yeah.
We couldn't
So
even stack items until like
that's
3
true.
months ago.
I mean, I'm imagining you're like all guns are guns. A gun is a gun is a gun, right? Or should be, for the
You would
purpose of
think.
setting a default action, right? On the ground is on the ground is on the ground. Or let me rephrase that. Laying around someplace, be it on the ground, on a counter, etc., is laying
Sure.
around somewhere, right? So that's like it's an item type and it's a state. So if it's an FS9, if it's an arc-light pistol and it's just laying around
Right.
somewhere, one shared default action for all of that. If you then go and spot some fucking piece of fruit on the ground, different
Different item
interaction
type.
because it's a different item type, right? I think that's a reasonable level for doing that, right?
Yeah, me too, right? And it's entirely possible that my fears are completely unfounded,
I think they are.
right? Um, I'm putting them out there because I've seen sillier shit come from CIG.
Yeah, you want that bite, so when you turn out to be right, you can come back here and say, "I was always saying." Yeah,
Yeah. No, I don't know. I am excited for it. Something that was not specifically said that I have a clip for that I'd like to play
okay,
is I don't know if this was a slip up for them putting it in or if it was a sneak peek that they snuck in there and hoped that somebody would catch it. We're talking about the personal interaction modes, right? But here's something that I'm very excited and that I hope that we get sooner rather than later. I'm going to play about 2 seconds of this. Okay.
ah,
He just twisted that on with his hand. Did you see that?
uh, I, 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 yeah, I wasn't paying attention. Can you back it up just a little bit? Look, let's do
I
it again real
can.
quick.
I can. So he's got this S38 pistol. He's going to inspect it and he's going to install a silencer. Watch this. Give it a second. I went back a few seconds too far.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Right here.
Talkie.
Okay. Customization, barrel attachment, twisted it on. It was there for that long. Okay. That's all he had. Half a second of that clip, but it was in there. Right.
Yeah,
They haven't said anything about that coming in 323. It probably won't, but I hope it comes soon. It is and isn't part of the personal interaction that we're talking about because it's an item interaction,
yeah.
right? It's an animation. I know that CIG have explicitly said that they intend to have unique animations for every interaction, whether it be a door, a valve, a gun, right? They intend to have animations for everything. Um, it's a steep task, right? But it would be a nice treat for that to come in this year, I think.
I gotta tell you, I'm stupidly optimistic that we're gonna get more than you think based on what you're saying. I mean, a lot of that stuff. Yeah, I think it's all tied together, right? The new player interaction system. I think it's probably tied to some of these new additional animations, right? That are all coming back from Squadron 42. I think we're going to get a lot of that. You know, when we're talking about um like the new FPS, like there's all the in the personal radar and all of these things that
Yeah,
are
the
supposed to
star
be
map
coming
and
in.
shit.
I think a lot of those little pieces, like the screwing on the silencer, I think those will come along with it. Maybe not all of them, but I think probably more than you might think.
That would be fantastic. Because I was talking earlier how like I play these games for the immersion factor and saying, please equip this suppressor, and then seeing my character go, sure. Fucking awesome.
I
So
agree.
good.
I
I
agree.
might
That was
sit there for I might sit there for half an hour just putting it on and taking it off, putting it on and taking it off, trying different attachments to see if the animations are slightly different or not.
yes, like swap out the optics.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do I have my
Sure.
little Swiss Army knife that I pull out? Like, might be fucking sweet, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
323. Is there much else that's supposed to be coming in 323? I
Yeah.
know that there's
I'm sure that they're not gonna They're not going to release 323 with like, here, we're giving you these two little things that we're pulling in from Star Citizen. Not with the amount of things that they've been talking about they're bringing in the first half of the year, the first 6 months. There's no way. Of course, they're going to have tons more. Tons more. What are they going to be? No fucking clue. No clue. I suspect I would guess that if they're dealing this much with the personal interaction system, that probably changes to the why can't I not even think of the word, the wrist thingy? What the
Moby Glass?
Oh, thank you. Changes to the Moby Glass, to the probably the personal radar, and changes to FPS combat are probably high on the list to bring in because they feel like integrated pieces.
Right. So
how your character, how your avatar interacts with the world.
So I'm trying to think back. It's been a little while since we've gotten any updates from CIG, right?
They're being super cagey now that they've gotten everybody's hopes up.
We are into February, and this is the first ISC that we got. What would have been yesterday in 2024. We went a whole month. Now, typically CIG's pattern is to go 2 weeks in the first, the first month of 2024 before they start putting out content again. They went a month this year.
Yeah,
Long time. So I'm trying to think back. I know that we're getting like the character creation menus, right? They're aiming to have the first parts of server meshing, i.e., the replication layer working, server crash recovery working in
yes. I mean,
323.
we've seen the tech review channel stuff coming up. They had the replication layer, server recovery in the last one.
They did,
Yeah.
and a quick update on that, since we're wrapping up this conversation by talking about 323 and what else is coming in. Initially, when they started the crash, uh, server crash recovery with the replication layer, yada yada yada, it was like a 10-minute lag between a server crashing and another one spooling up. They reduced that by half. They're down to about 5 minutes
But,
now.
yeah, still kind of long, but yeah,
It is. But I mean, that's half is pretty good. I think
half is pretty
obviously still have a long way to go. If they could cut that in half again, I think that'd be much closer to manageable. I feel like I could justify 2.5 minutes sitting there doing nothing when right now the cost is
good. Get up and go get a sandwich. That's
yeah, right. Right now the cost is, we 30K'd, back out, relaunch your game, get into a new server, get going. You lose probably even more than 5 to 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Now, right? So if they could get it down to under 5 minutes, maybe in that 2 to 3 minute mark, that's still a huge improvement. And I know they're going to keep working on it. So
yeah,
323.
Yeah,
kind of hopeful. Character creation is going to be super cool. What else is coming in 323?
I don't know. Do you have any like leaks or anything about what 323 may hold?
I am pulling up.
There was
there
was the Evocati leak on the last because 323 has gone to Evocati, I think.
It has,
and also 322.1 has gone to Evocati.
320. Well, yeah, I think that was just like a siege playtest or something. It wasn't anything too crazy.
Yeah, I thought I saw something else on it too. As far as I know, they also still haven't removed replication layer from the 322 card yet. I'm assuming they're going.
No,
to
they
push
haven't.
It to 322. I'm assuming they're going to push it to 323 at this point because they haven't seemed to make the progress that they need to make to get that released.
Oh, well, that's definitely a bum link. Star Citizen patch 323 will introduce base building, land claims. No, that's not true at all.
Land claims, I think land claims may be a thing in 323.
I don't think so, right? So they're starting development. Active development for base building in 323 in
right.
Q1.
Yeah, I didn't say base building though. I said land claims.
Well, what good would a land claim do without the ability to build on it?
It would validate the system and give them data to ensure that that piece is solid before they implement base building.
I don't think so. I see what you're saying.
Probably
I don't
not.
think it's going to work out that way.
Maybe not, but I maybe not.
Yeah, I'm not seeing too much else. That's not these little
Yeah,
bullshit
I know the leaks
clickbait
are
links.
the leaks are not coming for 323. I'm a little
No, no.
disappointed.
There was a leak that talked about distribution center data being in the 323 files. Um, I remain unconvinced that they will be in 323. I believe they were partially through Graybox last we
And
heard towards the
and
end of
and,
last year.
and the distribution center, refresh us on what that's about.
Right. So the distribution centers are the very large underground facilities that are basically small towns,
The UGFs,
multi-story. They've got
the big
the
replacement UGFs.
UGFs,
Gotcha. Hmm.
the big, huge replacement UGFs. So those are the distribution centers, right? And they did say CIG put out at the end of last year, if you'll remember, this video where they just did a huge sprint about here's everything we're putting into the first half of 2023. It was just bam, 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 and those distribution centers were on there. I do not think they're ready for 323. I would expect those, closer to the end of that first half mark. But it does appear that there is some data. It's probably just like location data.
Yeah,
Um,
so you might be right. However, I feel like so there are some systems that have to be built specifically for the persistent universe that didn't really exist in the context of Squadron 42, right? However, the distribution centers, these large, underground facilities, I feel like there's a good chance that those are in Squadron 42. They may be largely ready to go, and they just need to figure out, okay, how are we going to put them in how and where are we putting them in the persistent universe? Maybe some tweaks, some cleanups. They may be closer than you think.
I I'm gonna disagree with that specifically because last like 2952 Citizen Con, these UGFs were barely in white box. Right? Like they were barely starting on them. So I'm not. Maybe I could be wrong. Obviously, we won't know till we know. But
True, true, but then also the reallocation of human resources, right? Of that
true,
development resource
that's big.
means that their ability to start and make significant progress is significantly more since all of those Squadron 42 folks are now back to the persistent universe. Now, granted, the majority of those probably are retooling Squadron 42 features for implementation into Star Citizen. But I have to believe that a good chunk of those are also working on the new systems that are unique to the persistent universe. So, that
Yeah,
development cycle, it's got to be shorter. It's got to be.
you're right, and you bring up a good point. That's not really something I had considered. Is the fact that most squadron teams are back on the PU since it's feature complete. They're only polishing now. So this is a difficult thing to try to gauge,
Yeah,
right? Because
we're in a
we've
position
been
we haven't been in
stuck.
for a while.
Exactly, we've been in this spot where Star Citizen development has been so slow for so long that increased production time. What does that look like? We don't know. Can they bust out UGF gray box in 6 months? Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe that seems like a tall order for me based on what I know, but if they do have 300-400 guys, and maybe I'm exaggerating, but if they do have several hundred guys coming from Squadron suddenly who are being poured into P resources, then maybe there's room to be a little bit more hopeful. I'm trying to be reserved because I don't want to set myself up for disappointment. But
Yeah, see, I am 100% prepared mentally for not getting near as much as I hope for. And
that's
maybe I
good.
have set myself up on a bit of a for some disappointment because
A destructive path.
I fully expect for them to have at least a few massive systems. I'm expecting at least two big things in 3.23, right? And I'm expecting by the time they get to 3.24, a handful of massive systems, uh, big changes that totally changes the landscape to the persistent universe. I don't know exactly what they're going to be. Maybe they're going to have bugs.
I
Maybe there's going to have a lot of problems with them. But I can't let myself. I
So there is
I'm
something that
expecting it.
I am hopeful for, and that is that I don't think we're going to get a 324. I f- this is one of those hard things to say, but I think that we're gonna get 4.0.
Hmm. I
You
don't
know,
believe that. I
I
don't believe
think
that for a moment. I don't believe that for a moment. Quarter
I
three
respect
at
that.
the soonest. At
I respect that.
excuse me.
I respect that.
I said quarter three. I don't mean quarter three. Quarter four at the soonest for
Okay.
4.0.
I certainly won't argue with you. My you know, now that I say it out loud, it does seem a little bit too hopeful, but a quarter two release for Pyro.
I was hopeful before the Citizen Con, but once I saw all of the stuff that was coming in essence prior to 4.0, once I saw all of that stuff, my hopes for 4.0 coming out any like in the early part of the year gone. But I'm not upset by it because of the amount of things that are coming in. I know 3.23, it's going to be a bunch of good stuff. 3.24, probably even more really great stuff. I think we're definitely going to get a 3.25. Definitely
I won't
getting a
argue with you.
3.25.
You're
And
probably right.
maybe then we'll get a 4.0. We might not get a 3.26, but yeah, no, 3.24, as far as I'm concerned, it's not even a question for me. We're getting it.
I'll concede to that. I'll concede to that.
Anyway, yeah, so what else we got?
I think that's pretty much it. We don't have a lot of concrete 323 news yet. Maybe we will tomorrow. Do we know what tomorrow's Star Citizen Live topic is going to be? I say
Um,
tomorrow. It will have been this morning when people watch this.
yeah, I meant to look it up, but I don't know. We can take a look. What is it? What have you got?
I'm looking at it right now. This weekend Star Citizen Friday Star Citizen Live. It's all about Alpha 323.
That's all
So
it
we're
says.
probably
Just it's going to talk about 3.23. So we'll
that's
find
yeah
out some of our speculations are correct. And
yeah
by the
or
time you're listening to
completely
this,
unfounded
yeah,
or
by the time you're listening to this show or watching this show, you're going to know just how dumb we really are.
yeah. Boy, I really wish we could have done this live because then we could have had seen SCL. But personal things happen sometimes.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Unfortunately. So let's see then. Let's. I'm not ready to go quite yet. If we've got anything else we could talk about, we've still got about another 15 minutes if we want it.
okay, well let's take a quick look here. Siege of Horizon is going on. Oh, here we go. Pick
Yeah.
the
So let's
channel.
talk about Siege for a moment. Have you done or seen Siege since they've expanded? Well, since they've expanded the platforms and stuff. I think we've done it at least once, right?
We have. Yeah, it's not too much different. It's a little different. Um they seem to be combating issues with events where things have a hard time spawning reliably. It seems to be a common sort of issue with events with them, right?
Yes.
With Jump Town, it doesn't happen too much, but sometimes the boxes don't spawn. With Siege, you get bosses who don't spawn or who don't drop the codes, right? With like NTL, there's going to be like ships that don't spawn or Xeno Threat,
Thank
like
you for
Idrises won't
mentioning
spawn.
those two because that has been irritating me, right? So here recently they've been doing Jump Town, which is great. They've been doing Siege of Orison, which is nice. I have not seen a Ninetales lockdown or a Xeno threat in a while. And those are fun events. And
They
and
are.
and I am a little curious why they've chosen to not put those out because I think people have had fun with them, and creating that kind of additional variety for events that they have built that are available. I don't understand
So
why
I
they've
think I
backed
can
off.
answer that question, right? I think I can answer that question. I think that there's two reasons. Okay. And the first reason I think is because they have had such issues with them, right? And they don't speculating here. I don't think that they want to put that load on the servers right now. If one, they can't reliably get the events to work, and two, they're trying to put out server meshing, right? They're trying to put out replication layer split and crash recovery and all of these things that are supposed to massively increase server performance. So in
Mhm.
my mind, it makes sense to me that they want to get these systems out, get servers considerably more reliable, and then start putting these events out. Why I think that they're continuing with Jumptown and Siege specifically is one, Jumptown is supposed to be this fan favorite, right? It's supposed to be a classic, and I think that they're using it as a way to kind of bide time, right? To tide people over. And two, I think they're doing Siege because they have made a lot of FPS changes recently. And I think that why they're doing the FPS changes is to work on the polishing and the balancing of the
Sure.
squadron,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, that
And
makes
so
sense.
that
And
that's
that's valid for both Siege of Wars and Jumptown.
it is, and that's based on what I know. That's what I think they're doing is they're trying to use these events to get hard data about how FPS combat behaves.
Yeah.
Because they want to have a cohesive FPS experience in Squadron and as well as in the persistent universe. But now it's becoming much more prominent since Squadron's feature complete. They're in the
Sure.
polishing phase. This is part of that polishing phase.
Sure.
Is balancing combat.
Yeah,
You know,
and I suppose if they're not at a point where they're wanting to put in effort into fixing the problems with those space events, the Xeno threat and the Ninetales lockdown, if they're not wanting to put in the effort or the time right now to correct whatever those problems are, I could understand, I guess, not wanting to put those out in a state that they're not happy with. So
that's my own
I
speculation.
guess. I guess.
That's kind of where I'm at. So like I'm not necessarily upset about it.
I just really like those, and I would like to do some of those some more.
I like them too,
You know,
right?
taking the
Just to
hammerhead
kind
into the
of
Ninetales lockdown, super
yeah,
fun.
just a quick touch on it. Ninetales is really really fun because it's one of the few missions that gives us like an illegal option for the event.
Yep.
You can decide with the Ninetales, and Xenothread is really cool because it's a multi-part event that has a little bit of everything for everyone.
Yeah, it's I love the cargo handling option or
Yeah, there's
portion of
cargo,
that.
there's some FPS, there's
The
space
space
combat.
combat,
It's
the
like there's like logistics to it too, because you got different cargo types that all have to be treated differently. It's like
yeah, that's one of the
it's
I love that event because it's so diverse
it's great. It is
and
so good. So
it requires cooperation to a degree that other events don't require, which
I
is
agree.
another thing that I enjoy because uh, not being a PvP player, I love things that foster the cooperative gameplay.
Agreed. Agreed. And as a pro PvP player, I'm not like a joystick jockey or a super sweat by any means. I'm kind of bad, but I enjoy the PvP aspect, right? And perpetuating those cooperative gameplay while still having that PvP threat, but in such a way that it's not dominating the event, I think is really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So
Super enjoy those. So, in I guess the other thing that I'm looking forward is I guess it's Quanta that's going to be controlling the automatic triggering of those events as well, right? So
it
we've
will
talked
be.
about Quanta
Yeah.
in recent episodes, um, where specifically I think in the last episode where we talked about the economy, right? What we didn't talk about then was this idea that Quanta is also going to be responsible for triggering these dynamic events. They call them dynamic events, right? So that if the conditions are right, then Quanta will say, hey, this is a situation where Ninetales would want to come in and do this lockdown event. Or here's a situation where they're going to want to come in and do that, that Xeno threat thing that they do. So they spawn that event. So that's something else I'm looking for is those automatically. So they don't announce it. It just, oh, hey, it happened.
It'll be an alert that pops up on your Moby glass.
Yeah, and you just
Like,
you just call up your friends, jump on the Discord and say, "Hey man, it's happening. Get in."
Yeah, exactly. You get those the priority alerts that you get when the event goes live. You get the little pop up. This is Rowena Dooley. It's like, oh shit. Gotta
Yeah.
respond to this. Got a priority call. Yeah, that'll happen. Man, Sans SCL. I'm not really sure what else is coming in 323 for sure. So I'm not exactly sure what to talk about. There's
I hope they do the cargo elevators in 323.
The cargo elevators is something that is
If it's
definitely coming soon.
if
Hopefully
it's not
323.
yeah, if it's not 323, it'll be 324. I'm sure.
Agreed. Agreed. I think it might be 323. There's also the new quantum system for
Quantum system. Yep.
and
That could.
like master modes.
I think master modes are probably definitely 3.23
I think so too.
because it's already in Arena Commander. They've been testing it. People have been doing it. They've gotten lots of feedback. They've made adjustments to it. I think that's definitely 3.23. I'd be
I
surprised if
think
it's
so
not.
too. That's all I got for speculation.
They might actually. Now that I think about it, the way that they did the master modes in Arena Commander before bringing it over, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they take the FPS changes and put that in Arena Commander first, also.
I would be surprised, and I'll tell you why. There is nobody in Star Marine, Arena Commander, FPS, whatever. There,
You don't think
I
they
have
would be
gone.
if they had a better FPS system in it?
I really don't think they would, because they've made the updates, right? And I say nobody. There's a very small number. I have gone into that Star Marine countless times and been the only person where I will join and it'll say, "Hey, we're putting you in a lobby," and there's literally nobody else. And then after 5-10 minutes of waiting, one person will join and we'll be 1v1ing in a match, right? Every once in a while, I'll get put into a full lobby, right? And like, oh, hey, look, like it's a Friday night or something, and there's some people in, right?
Yeah,
And then
and
I
then
leave and
every
I
lobby
come
you hit,
back.
it's always the same people.
It's the same exact people every time, right? And
So when you say not
sometimes,
very many people, you're talking there's like 5 to 10 people
like, I can
in
count on one
all
hand
of
how
in
many people.
all of Star Citizen. That's what's in.
Right. And it doesn't matter if there's 4 people in that lobby or 8 people in that lobby, right? If people leave, like, you never get put into a different lobby. It's the same lobby every time. And I don't know if that has to do with Star Citizen's way of like prioritizing putting you in friends lobbies or putting you back in lobbies that you were, because like with the persistent universe, right? It tries to prioritize putting you back in servers you were in previously, right? And that's part of the tech that they have for like server meshing and yada yada yada, because it's all going to be whatever, right? But yeah, definitely had experiences in Star Marine where it's like, dude, there's nobody here, and that's playing the most common game mode. That's like elimination, which is the number one game mode there as
It
far as
is.
FPS
Yeah.
goes. So
It's interesting to me
I
that
don't think that Star Marine Arena Commander would be a viable place to test the FPS
yeah,
combat changes.
it's interesting to me that that has been so unpopular, giving games like Modern Warfare and Tarkov, these FPS games that are high quality, fast paced, because
I think I can explain it.
the arena commander can accomplish that. Granted, it's not as polished as those games.
There's two things that what I, again, speculating, this is my own observation. Two things. One, you say it's not as polished, which is a huge part of it, right? The desync is terrible in all of the arena commander modes. It's bad. Okay. So it kind of sucks to play. With Hito, LT Hedonist, the guy who was on a couple of weeks ago, he'll attest to this. Things like maps when you're in dogfights are too small. It's way too easy to go out of bounds, right? Um, the FPS Star Marine maps are actually not bad. When we do have a full group doing FPS Star Marine stuff in Arena Commander, it's a lot of fun when it's not desyncy, like really, really bad. I do enjoy it. But the second thing is that nobody, period, buys Star Citizen. They don't buy their starter ship. They don't come to Star Citizen because they say, "Hey, I saw somebody playing Star Marine. I saw somebody in Arena Commander." You
That's
know,
true. That's a true statement. That's absolutely true.
the
They come to Star
people,
Citizen to be in space. They don't come to be doing FPS. If they want FPS, they're playing League of Legends. They're playing
well, not only
Fortnite. They're
that,
playing something like that.
they're even Arena Commander is not very popular, right? But they're coming to Star Citizen because they say open world space simulator, open world future life simulator, right? They're not coming to Star Citizen because they say, "Oh, they have TDM," you know. So I mean, that's they'll get there. I think, when Star Citizen is in a place where, I mean, they've got like YouTube ads and stuff out and stuff, but like when they get into a place where they can properly advertise Star Citizen as basically a complete game, whether that's like when they go into beta, or if the bullshit pipeline leaks are to be believed in 2025 or 6 when they're supposed to release, when they start
Right.
actually advertising a complete game, and they say, hey, these are our game modes, and they start advertising, these arena commander game modes, and they start advertising the persistent universe.
You
you
know,
know
let's talk about that for just a second, right?
sure,
I Arena Commander's cool, right?
I
It's
agree.
cool for having a slightly different experience with regard to space combat, FPS, whatever, right? And to experience what is possible, because you're right, there is the desync issue, but there's also no denying the fact that because we've got just a few people in the lobby, because it's a small world, it runs fast. It is smooth when you're actually
Yeah,
able
when you have
in there.
5 people on a server, that happens.
Yeah, right, right. So, but my point is that when they finally get to the point that they're able to do the server optimizations, they're able to clean up the code and the way that everything runs, so that you can actually achieve those high frame rates, those high, that good performance in Star Citizen, in the persistent universe. I feel like those little lobbies go away, right? At least as far as like, what's the point in being in that when you can have the same type of experience in the persistent universe?
So the idea, right? And they kind of did this back when like the hangar module was a thing. Is Arena Commander is supposed to be in lore like a video game, like a simulator, right? You get in these little pods and you get in. And the idea is that you can, with things like death of a spaceman, right? And the consequences for dying or having your ship disabled are so huge. You're supposed to be able to utilize Arena Commander, whether it be FPS or space combat, to get those reps in and practice without risking your actual PU assets,
Well,
right?
if that gives you the same type of experience as you would get in the persistent universe, right? So one of the things that they're bringing into Star Citizen is this idea that the more you do a thing, the better you get at doing the thing, right? If I can go into Star Marine, or the Arena Commander, and I can do those things and gain that same experience, and it was reflected in my in the persistent universe, then I agree. Cool, I get it. But if that experience, if you going into those simulators doesn't give you the experience so that you're actually better in the persistent universe, I
So
yeah,
there's a lot of ways that it
you
will.
get real skill, personal. Like, I could actually personally get better at it, but I mean, I don't know,
You
maybe.
understand that Star Citizen is never going to have like skill trees, right?
Yeah, no, that I know.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I get that.
Yeah,
But
that real tangible personal skill. That's
but the
what's going to
more
set
I
you
do a
apart.
manual takedown of somebody in Star Marine, right?
Oh, I
If
see what
that
you're
means that
saying.
I then become better at doing that, taking somebody down
I
in the
see what you
persistent
mean.
universe, then I think there's a lot of value there. Um, you
I have
know,
to say, I don't think that's going to translate.
I
I
think,
don't think it is.
but what you're describing tells me it should, because then Star Marine and the Arena Commander becomes a place where you can go train. Essentially, you do your training, your in-game training in what amounts to an in-game simulation, right?
I could
It's
see it
like going to
maybe
a
working
gym.
at a
It's like going to a
reduced.
gym.
Sure, you're not wrong, right? And I can see that maybe working at a reduced rate.
Maybe.
Like I'm gonna use some arbitrary numbers here. Okay, let's say that I'm just gonna use an XP scale just to describe it. Let's say that it takes like 100 XP to get to the next level of your melee takedowns. Okay, doing a melee takedown grants you 10 XP in the PU. I could see doing repeated reps like this in Star Marine or something, where you're in like a TDM or something, you're going doing manual takedowns. Maybe it gives you like 1 XP. So you got to do significantly more. But since you can sit there and do reps after reps after reps, you know, you can still build up that XP, but it's going to take longer. Whereas in the PU, you know, you won't be able to have access to 100 people to just get those reps in.
I agree with that. I agree with that a lot, right? Because in those environments, it's concentrated combat, right? Whereas in the
Right.
PU, finding those combat opportunities are going to be much less, especially
Mm-hmm.
PvP, right? So like I'm going to go to some bunker, there's no people. It's like there's
Right.
NPCs and I can get better against the NPCs, but there's no people, right? So that experience is definitely going to be accrued differently and much more rapidly, much more frequently in these
Yeah,
in these
it's got to be
lobby-based
heavily
game modes.
reduced. It's got to be heavily reduced because there are absolutely going to be people who sit down day one and max out those skills instantly.
As
If they
much as much as they're able to. You're right.
as much as they're able to, right? Oh, it'll take me, you know, 36 hours in the PU to hunt enough people to get up to max level when I could spend 2 hours in Star Marine and do it.
Did you play
Like,
Star Wars Galaxies with me? You did, right?
no, no,
No. Oh,
no.
yeah. That was
Is there a relevant example there with Star Wars Galaxies?
there is, right? So when that game came out and you first started playing it, it was super slow, right? You got your class and you know you did your stuff and you gained your levels, etc. You learned how to do the base building and all the resource crafting and how to advance. But then after a few months, people figured out how to and even I did figured out how to claim a class from start and just rocket through those levels, right? And just massively I wouldn't even call it an exploit of the system. It was just the systems that they had in play, and you just figure out, oh, I got to kill these things, and I think I know I find them here, and just rocket through it. So I understand what you're saying, right? They obviously don't want to have that kind of a situation where after the first couple of months people get in and they're like, oh, I know how to game the system and become the best at everything super fast. Got to the
Right.
point where, like in that game, you know, the idea was, so like there was the Jedi, right? Jedi
Sure.
was not available for anybody until somebody figured out how to unlock the Jedi class, and then you could become a Jedi. As soon as somebody figured it out, basically what it was is you had to become the max level in all classes, and as soon as you did that, Jedi unlocked and you become a Jedi. I'll tell you, as soon as the first person unlocked Jedi, Jedi started popping up because they're all like, oh, okay, I get it. And they just started rocking through every class. Coom, coom, coom. And then they became a Jedi. And guess what they did? They rocketed to the top of Jedi because they knew how. So
That's exactly what I don't want to see, right? Because
me too. I don't want to see that either.
there's supposed to be severe penalties for things like dying more than a couple of times, for getting your ship blown up, right? And if you could just, I say permadie, you know, right? Because death of a spaceman is supposed to be a thing. If you permadie and you say, "Oh, no biggie," and you spend 10 minutes doing reps to get all your stats back, what's the fucking point?
I
You know,
definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
what's the fucking point?
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean that's kind of where I'm at. We have been all over the place chatting today.
Yep. Absolutely have.
Is there any other wild tangents you want to go on before we call it?
No, but I appreciate you entertaining the tangents today.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy talking about the tangents. I typically like to have a more structured discussion. Today was a weird one. You know, we were pre-recorded. We didn't get to absorb the content we were hoping to absorb before having filmed, which was a little bit of a bummer. But it happens sometimes. You know,
Yep.
we'll
No
have some.
guests, no
Yeah,
content.
yeah.
Just a free form discussion today. So
It's part of what happens, you know, in the early days of the year with Star Citizen, because they do take their break at the end of the year, and they take a you know they continue that break into the year, and it was a particularly long break in
particularly
2024.
long. I'm very much looking forward
Like
to the next
yeah,
roadmap update.
yes,
And my hope is that we get one next week after this talk about 3.23, because
yeah.
they've got to put out a 3.23 card. We've got to start seeing what's going to be coming
I
out.
hope
I
so
mean,
too. We've got the Star Citizen live, what will have been this morning, but for us is actually tomorrow morning. with the weekly newsletter. But yeah, there's nothing on a roadmap update. Here's to hoping. We'll find out on Monday, I suppose, when they put out This Week in Star Citizen.
Yep.
Here's to hoping, man. And I hope that the SCL is good. And for those of you who do want to continue this discussion, after the SCL goes live, we are on Discord at discord.gg/PFCS. We are always happy to talk about this stuff. So swing by and just start talking, man. Just get your own thoughts and opinions out there about Star Citizen and its development, and we'll talk about it.
Yep. Appreciate it. Thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you next time.